The Absolute Power of the Mind, the transformative philosophy of David Goggins, the lonely battle against yourself. David Goggins, former Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner, presents a life philosophy that fundamentally challenges our understanding of human limitations and mental capacity. His motivational discourse transcends the traditional concept of self-help, delving deeply into the psychology of suffering and the art of mastering one's own mind. For Goggins, the true battlefield is not in the external world, but within our own consciousness, where we wage a daily silent war against our inner demons, paralyzing fears, and the seductive voice of comfort that constantly invites us to mediocrity. When he speaks of moments of utter loneliness, those dark instants where we are completely alone with our pain, depression, and sense of failure, Goggins touches on a universal truth that resonates with the deepest human experience. In these critical moments, he categorically emphasizes that no technology, no app, no artificial intelligence or modern device can truly save us. There is no algorithm for courage, no download for resilience, no software update that can install willpower in our psyche. The only tool available, the only weapon we possess against the abyss of despair, is the raw, indomitable force of our own mind. The brain as adversary and ally. Goggins' perspective on brain function is revolutionary in its brutal simplicity. He describes our brain as an almost independent entity, an internal saboteur that constantly works against our best interests. This primitive mind, shaped by millions of years of evolution to prioritize safety and energy conservation, becomes our greatest obstacle when we try to achieve greatness. The brain, in its most basic essence, is programmed to keep us in our comfort zone, to avoid pain, to seek immediate pleasure, and to conserve resources. It is a survival machine, not a machine for excellence. Goggins argues that most people live as slaves to their own brains, blindly obeying every impulse of laziness, every whisper of doubt, every cry of stop when things get tough. But he proposes a radical reversal of this dynamic. We must assume total and absolute command over our minds. This literally means telling the brain what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, regardless of the protests, elaborate excuses, or seemingly logical justifications it offers. It's a form of benevolent dictatorship over oneself, where you become the supreme commander of your own mental existence. A personal journey through hell, Goggins' credibility doesn't stem from academic theories or abstract concepts, but from a life lived in the trenches of extreme suffering. He openly shares his personal struggles, the devastating learning difficulties that marked him since childhood, creating deep scars on his self-esteem. He was the kid who needed to read the same page dozens of times to understand the basic content, while others absorbed information with apparent ease. Every test, every exam, every learning moment was an epic battle against his own cognitive limitations. Failures piled up like mountains in his path. He failed military tests, was rejected, ridiculed, underestimated. Fear was his constant companion. Fear of failing again, fear of not being enough, fear of confirming all the negative voices echoing in his head. But it was precisely through this valley of shadows that Goggins discovered a fundamental truth. Suffering can be transformed into fuel. Pain can be converted into power. Hell Week and the forging of the Navy SEALs. The most transformative period of his life occurred during the infamous Navy SEALs training, particularly during Hell Week, a week of physical and mental torture designed to break even the strongest candidates. This brutal period, where candidates sleep less than 4 hours a day all week, are subjected to constant hypothermia, extreme exhaustion, and relentless psychological pressure, serves as the ultimate crucible where ordinary men are transformed into elite warriors, or destroyed in the process. Goggins not only survived Hell Week once, but 3 times, an almost unimaginable feat. During these periods of extreme suffering, with his body screaming for relief, with stress fractures, pneumonia, and multiple injuries, he discovered the secret to transcending seemingly impossible human limitations, transforming suffering into normalcy. This is not a poetic metaphor, but a concrete and deliberate psychological strategy. The creation of a new existential norm. Goggins' concept of a new normal is revolutionary in its practical application. He consciously reprogrammed his brain to accept that extreme pain, constant failure, and superhuman effort were not temporary exceptions in his life, but rather the standard state of existence. Imagine waking up every morning expecting to face hell, not as an unpleasant surprise, but as a comforting certainty. This mental paradigm shift completely transforms the experience of suffering. When pain becomes normal, it loses its power to stop us. When failure is expected as part of the process, it can no longer devastate us. When extreme effort is simply how things are, there is no longer any internal negotiation about whether or not we should continue. It's as if Goggins hacked the operating system of his own brain, rewriting the fundamental code that governs our responses to discomfort and adversity. The neuroplasticity of the warrior. From a neuroscientific point of view, what Goggins describes is an extreme example of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and adapt. When he says that the brain adapts when it realizes you're not going to give up, he is describing a real phenomenon where neural circuits are literally rebuilt through repeated exposure to challenging stimuli. The brain, realizing that resistance is futile, begins to allocate resources differently, strengthening neural pathways associated with resilience, determination, and pain tolerance. This process doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks, months, years of constant and relentless pressure against perceived limits. Each time you keep going when your brain begs you to stop, you're laying small bricks in the foundation of a mental fortress. Over time, these bricks accumulate into impenetrable walls against weakness and giving up. Work as religion for Goggins. Hard work isn't just a strategy. It's a religion, a philosophy of life, a way of existing in the world. He completely rejects the modern culture of shortcuts, productivity hacks, and quick fixes. In his view, there are no substitutes for the raw hours of effort, the sweat shed, the tears of frustration that precede breakthrough. Every extra repetition, every additional mile, every extra hour of study or training is a deposit into the bank account of character. He is relentless in his condemnation of excuses. For Goggins, excuses are the cancer of greatness, slowly corroding our potential until only an empty shell remains of what we could have been. Bad genetics, irrelevant, traumatic childhood, fuel for the fire, lack of resources, find a way. There are no easy ways out in his philosophy because easy ways out only lead to mediocre destinies. The accountability mirror. One of Goggins' most powerful concepts is the accountability mirror. Every morning, he looks in the mirror and has a brutal, honest conversation with himself. No filters, no niceties, no excuses. He takes total and absolute responsibility for every aspect of his life. If something is wrong, it's his fault. If something needs to change, it's his responsibility. This extreme level of personal accountability is simultaneously liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it removes the victim role. You are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances or other people. Terrifying because there is no one left to blame when things go wrong. You are completely alone with the consequences of your choices, actions, and inactions. But it is precisely in this radical solitude of total responsibility that Goggins finds his power. The paradox of peace through suffering. Perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of Goggins' philosophy is his assertion that true inner peace comes not from comfort, but from voluntary and disciplined suffering. This seems paradoxical in a culture obsessed with well-being, soft mindfulness, and the pursuit of happiness through pleasure. But Goggins argues that the superficial peace of comfort is fragile, easily shattered by life's first adverse wind. The peace that comes from facing your darkest demons, from pushing through the most extreme pain, from continuing when every fiber of your being screamed to stop, that peace is unshakable. It is the peace of the warrior who knows at the deepest level of their being that they can survive anything because they have already survived the impossible. It is the tranquility that comes not from the absence of storms, but from the absolute certainty that you can navigate through any storm. Callous your mind, calejando a mente. Callous your mind is another fundamental mantra of Goggins. Just as hands develop calluses through repetitive work, protecting the sensitive skin underneath, the mind can develop its own protections through repeated exposure to discomfort. Each challenge faced, each moment of discomfort voluntarily embraced, adds a layer of mental protection. But these mental calluses don't make you insensitive or emotionally dead. On the contrary, they allow you to feel deeply without being destroyed by the intensity of the experience. You can experience pain without panic, failure without despair, fear without paralysis. Mental calluses are like armor that allows you to enter battles that would destroy an unprepared mind. Discovering who you really are. At the heart of Goggins' message is a profound existential quest. Discovering who you really are when all the masks fall, when all the excuses run out, when you are naked before your own limitations. He believes that most people die without ever knowing their true selves, because they never ventured beyond the safe boundaries of their comfort zones. The real you isn't revealed in moments of ease and pleasure. It's forged in the fire of adversity, sculpted by the pressure of extreme challenge, revealed only when you're pushed beyond all conceivable limits and still find a way to keep going. It's in that uncharted territory beyond the impossible that you find not only who you are, but who you can become. The legacy of a life without limits. David Goggins' philosophy is not for everyone. It is extreme, relentless, and many would consider it unhealthy or unbalanced. But for those who feel a deep calling for more of themselves, more of life, more than the comfortable but empty existence that modern society offers, his words are like a flash of truth in a world of comforting lies. Goggins reminds us that within every human being lies a vast, untapped potential, a wellspring of strength that most will never discover because they will never be forced to seek it. He challenges us to question every limitation we accept about ourselves, to test every barrier we believe to be insurmountable. And most importantly, he shows us through his own example that radical transformation is not only possible, it is inevitable for those willing to pay the price in sweat, tears, and unwavering determination. Goggins' final message is simultaneously brutal and hopeful. You are infinitely more capable than you imagine, but discovering this truth will require you to voluntarily go through hell, repeatedly, until hell becomes your home. And it is only when you become comfortable in extreme discomfort that you will finally be free. Free from the chains of your own self-imposed limitations, free to become the most powerful and authentic version of yourself. Are you going to let your mind control you, or are you going to take control now? If this speech impacted you, it's time to act. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and join those who are forging the mind through pain, discipline, and overcoming. No excuses, no shortcuts. Click sign up and start building your new version, the unbreakable version.